And now for today's featured speakers, I'll introduce Rose. Rose is a Haitian American from Waltham, Massachusetts. She's a junior in class of 2022, majoring in management with a minor in sociology, and is currently president of the Black United Body. While she has participated in other student organizations in her first 2 years at Bentley, this year Rose has focused all of her extracurricular energies on the Black United Body. And Ernest Washington Jr., class of 1973, was born and raised in Roxbury, Massachusetts, attended Boston Public Schools, and served a combat tour of duty in Vietnam, and is the recipient of the Purple Heart and the Vietnam Cross of Gallantry. Upon his return, he enrolled at Bentley College of Accounting and Finance, where he graduated in 1973 with degrees in accounting and management. In 1980, he was awarded a master's degree in public administration from Northeastern University, and he is a distinguished alumnus of both Bentley and Northeastern. In 1986, he founded Vanguard Parking and General Services Corporation, which employs inner-city Boston residents and engages in the provision of contract parking and janitorial cleaning services across Metro Boston and the Commonwealth. He continues to serve as owner and CEO today. In addition, he has many accolades and is an active volunteer and advocate as a founding member of the Veterans Benefits Clearinghouse and a founding member and president of the Concerned Black Men of Massachusetts Incorporated, and has also been recognized by the International Society of Business Leaders. Not to mention, he is one of the founding members of the Black United Body at Bentley. So without further ado, please join me in virtually welcoming our distinguished set of speakers for today. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So my name is Rose, as Emily mentioned, and I'm currently the president of Black United Body. And my vice president, Chantel, will be joining us soon. But quick little recap of what Bentley's been doing as of recent. We recently had a conversation with Latasha Brown. We've been having a lot of conversation, especially with Bentley PD, to make sure that everybody is feeling included, safe, especially what's been going on over the summer currently and everything with coronavirus. We also are, for Black History Month, we started doing a fundraising for a local women's group, and you guys can follow and support, and you guys can reach us and find out all the information on our Instagram page at Bentley _BUB, sorry about that. So if you guys would like to donate or help us promote anything or keep up with us, please follow us and keep a lookout at our Instagram page at Bentley _BUB. Chantel, Chantel is joining me and she will be introducing herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Chantel. I'm currently Vice President of BUB. I am a management major and a finance minor, and I've been in BUB for almost 2 years now, and I've loved this organization.
So we will be having a conversation with Ernest. We have a couple questions to start off, but before we do any of that, we'll like to give him the chance to introduce himself, talk a little about himself, just, start off the conversation before we can start the questions. And like Emily mentioned earlier, if you guys have any questions, specific questions to ask him or ask us about BUB currently, please feel free to ask in the question chat box. But Ernest, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad that we're able to get together during Black History Month. This is a big staple for me, and in all ways, there's been regularity from the Bentley College community in recognizing that, and I'm really proud of that. I spend every part of my life recognizing the important parts, and Bentley was a beginning, and a very special beginning for me, because a young man returning home from Vietnam, which was a very questionable war in terms of participation, the big thing, at least, that the military offered was educational assistance, which really meant if you were a survivor, we'd pay for all of it. And that's the only way I would have been able to acquire the type of quality education I did from Bentley. And I just felt that for my family, for myself, and I speak for them, we never forget things like that because of the doors it opened, the people we met. And I preach to my children, my grandchildren, you never know who you rubbing shoulders with, especially in time of turmoil. And there was a considerable amount of turmoil in the early days at Bentley when there were no campuses, and people of different racial backgrounds had to meet in technically a brownstone on Boylston Street. But if it weren't for the strong organization of the professors and the faculty in that building that convinced us to hang in there, it was not comfortable. Bentley was not comfortable. And please remember, it was the early days, and we were kind of struggling with what to do together. Harry Bentley was part of the population, and we were trying to do the right thing. And it's just beautiful to see that we prevailed. It's still here. There are still committed, concerned, and responsible young people of all backgrounds of color that are working together for one particular principle, which is the exposure to fine work that Bentley has done, but what it's done for you. And I really feel very fortunate to be able to still be doing that at 73 years old, because we lost some Bentley alum along the way that were more vocal than me. And the alum from that era, we always make sure that we know, regardless of where they live. There are many in the New Jersey area, in the New York area, that went back home after the education was completed, Bentley, and they did beautiful things with their lives. And they still, even if it's a phone call or a donation check, they still are connected to Bentley. And I'm proud of that as well, because they all did well, and they never forgot the first Bentley campus opening, the mixed reaction amongst the races on who was represented, on who was not in those first classes on campus. But the years that I spent there, we worked it out. And I'm glad that we worked it out to the degree where it's still there. And students of all backgrounds, economic levels, the whole 9 yards, talk to each other, sit down with faculty in the president's office and work things out. And that's exactly what we did back then. And a lot of times it was angry, but all the time there was agreement, which was the beautiful part of it. And it turns out, as most of our history is, when folk hear about it, I mean, it's an open and shut case. They want to help. And there's a lot of that going around now. And that makes me feel real good, along with this meeting today, that we're able to discuss it and talk about it. And you can hear from me, and I can hear from you, because the strands of the struggle are still there, but there has been tremendous progress, and I'm always going to speak on the positive. I shared with Rose and Emily in the kind of practice for this event today, the real pain of Vietnam and being a veteran of color. But the same thing happened. The United States Marine Corps finally realized the difference, that there were difference in white and black and Latin. And they responded, just like Bentley. My parents, God rest their souls, thought I was lucky But I'd like to think that people were sensitive back then. That's the only way I made it. People were sensitive on Bentley campus. Only way I made it. They were sensitive at Northeastern. Only way I made it. And since I'm the only African American in the contract parking business, Laz and Pilgrim and all the big boys, they were sensitive that there were none in the business before, and they helped me be successful. So, like I said before, those are the kind of things you don't forget. Those are the kind of things you want to pass on to your children and your family, because I worry about them, but I do the best I can to ensure they're in an environment that's like all the entities I mentioned to you just now, starting with Bentley. So by way of an introduction, I hope that explains some things about me, and I'm more than open and willing to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for that, Ernest. We appreciate
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So Chantel will start with the first question. And quick reminder, if you guys have any questions while we're having this conversation, please feel free to ask in the Q&A box. But with that being said, we will start our first question.
Hi, everyone. So the first question today is, as a co-founder of Black United Body, what was your vision for the organization like?
Well, over half of it was, planning for future existence. We wanted to be, and the time frame was a lot shorter back then, because we didn't know really how successful we would be. But I can't reiterate more. There were always ears that listened to us. I have to give credit where credit is due. But to try to answer that, we wanted to make sure it continued from class to class and from year to year. Faculty and staff had the same reasoning. They wanted it to continue from year to year and class to class. And so it wasn't just us that were interested in the future of BUB. There were, and a lot of other students finally came up on board with the attitude that we all are better off if there's a quelling and a calmness of what was happening on campus at that time in the early years. And most of it was positive, but there was some negative. There was backlash, but it was quelled quickly because we had the cooperation of everyone. And those are the kind of seeds we tried to sow then, so that the fruit now would be an existing BUP. I don't speak to all of the original members of BUB or the first ones, but I know they would all agree to that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We have a quick question that just came in, and it's, being the first man of color in the parking business, what were some of the challenges you faced the first 5 years you were open?
Because of the support I had, the biggest challenges were because one staple of our success was where we recruited from, which were the inner cities in Boston. And that's where the real challenge was. And the fact that it was new to the parking business. And again, those entities I mentioned were like Bentley. They wanted to do it. There had been unheard of with cashiers of color being on the waterfront in Boston handling money, depositing customer money in banks, unheard of in this country. Okay. There were certain minority groups that dominate the parking business. I don't blame them. They were there, and the majority folks, the owners, and would-be clients, were more comfortable dealing there. And there was really no interest in my community for that kind of work. So the challenge was recruiting, training, and developing talent. And our areas of recruitment were Lower Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, et cetera. And then it expanded statewide. But every step of the way, the so-called big three in parking in the world supported me, because they knew it was correct. So, but the biggest challenge was my mandate was we would train in all aspects of contract parking. And we were the only ones that would train. I didn't depend on the majority parking companies to train our folks. I just wanted them to be comfortable with where our folks are coming from, because they're not coming from the places they used to come from. You know, they came from Blue Hill Avenue and Seaver Street and Humboldt Avenue, inner city. And they were well-trained, which was an exception to way other parking companies recruited and trained. And my big staple were females. They had to be in supervision and management in the parking business, which is a tough business. But I was very lucky. And we recruited and trained women of color that ended up superior on the job because of our, for lack of a better term, our clientele, which were mostly young males of color. I can tell you that the mother aspect prevailed when the father aspect didn't. And that is in every aspect of training. And to me, the biggest part is discipline and respect. The respect that these women were shown is the reason why we were successful, because of the way they handled it. And, you know, I don't care about being one of the businesses that treated women well first. I'm just interested in the outcome. And when my clients saw it, I've been with them now for 35 years. I can't ask for any more than that as a businessman. A commitment from a major client. We accept the way you recruit and train and provide opportunity. The beauty of my particular arrangement, if you showed me a day's work for 5 years, you got a chance to study at Northeastern for zero. The same, and I call it privilege, that the Marine Corps handed to me. And of course, the opening was a little different because you had to be alive in the Marine Corps to be offered it. And I just carried that forward. And that's all I asked, is a day's work for 5 days a week for 5 years. Yeah, I expected might be a couple of disciplinary things along the way, but we forgave as opposed to punish. And some of those same people or staff members that forgave are going to school at Northeastern now. And that's what I wanted to bring back and present as a product of our business for people that look like me, that didn't have any opportunity, because it was me. I would never been able to go to Bentley College if it wasn't for the GI Bill. Never, not the way I came through. I was lucky to get through to high school. And it wasn't long after, I didn't have much time to think before I got drafted in the military. All the negativity of that, I turned to positive. And it's the same way I run my business. I'm looking for the young person, regardless of background, minority group, whatever. You struggling with what you want to do next. You want to break the law. You want to abide by the law. You want to respect your parents. Just talk to me. Only it wasn't just me. It was my staff of supervisors and managers, which they'll go with me to the end. Many of them are still working for me after 35 years at Northeastern. I'm real proud of that. But their approach to the young people, with the mixture of parental and supervisory, prevailed and still prevails. We still get the respect and we're still changing lives, which is what we set out to do. Okay, making money is important too, because you can't continue without a profit. But when our clients finally recognized that our training was quite a bit different than others, that's what kept us going to now. And it's still being recognized. And as time passing has us where we are now, there's more discussion about that, and a lot less discussion about, well, we could have done this and we could have done that. And it's a master plan of changing what's ever negative today to positive. So our mechanics are still viable. And that's why we're successful. And now other companies see the same kind of thing. And we're just a small parking company, started in Mattapan. Vision of one person, that it could be like this. Why don't we try that? A lot of times you can't try it. I was in an environment where people encouraged those kind of attempts, and we prevailed. So I know I'm long-winded, I tend to be, but I hope I answer. Again, I hope I answer that question correctly. And thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for asking that question.
No, of course. That was a perfect answer. Thank you, Ernest. Let's see. Let's do, since we're just talking about your work field, how about we talk about what happened sort of before it?
Happened what?
What kind of happened before you got into your work field? So the question here is, what are some things you wished you knew before going into the work field?
Into the work field?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Work field? What did
Yes,
I
the
know?
work field. What are some things that you wished you knew before going into the work field?
Well, complexity. One of the things, I didn't think it was as complex. Every aspect of work I didn't think was as it turned out. It was a visionary thing for me. I would like to, I was trained to kind of see things coming. So in terms of preparedness, the things I didn't see, and I have to be honest, and it did prepare me for the endeavor, were that so many more people cooperated in the things we wanted to do at Bentley, or one of the things I wanted to do before going anywhere to work. The preparation were, I won't say politic, but the preparation was finding out as much as I could about the clients that were interested in our services. And I hope I'm capturing the gist of the question correctly. But the things that, in terms of preparedness for that, were communication, and the things I kind of grappled with were, it was enough communication, having enough communication to people that you're hoping are going to end up hiring you or choosing you to work with them, and they'd be the client. So, keeping a cool head is probably a simplistic view of it, but paying attention and understanding the real presentations that are being made to you for people that either want your services or want to work along with you. I had some drawbacks in the area in the early beginning, and I think that will address the question. And in the kind of ways that it ended up, and I wasn't at a disadvantage, were again, network, communication, as much information as you can grapple about the direction you want to head and who you want to deal with. And if you see some negativities in that approach, you know, try to, in a programmatic fashion, address those, because it wouldn't want them to be the reason you wouldn't take the chance. So I consider those kind of things in terms of preparing for work and preparing to have folks try to understand that I was a first in a lot of things, and I appreciated that. And that my workforce may represent many folks that are first. And as long as they got the respect, that was part of my preparation. And so again, hope I answered it correctly.
Thank you for that. That was a great answer.
Thank
So we're going to switch a little bit. We're going to talk about some struggles that you face while being Black at Bentley. So the question is, can you compare or identify your struggle of being Black at Bentley with what some of our current students are going through now? And a follow-up, is there any advice you can give students of color that are at Bentley right
Well,
now?
it'd be kind of helpful if I knew what some of the concerns were, but I think I can answer it because it's probably the same as ours were at the time. And the biggest was respect. Constantly, we tried to cooperate with the university in that area in terms of respect. And they began to understand there were certain ways we wanted that to happen, certain things we wanted to do. And after a while, the university agreed to do those things. But in the early goings, we wanted to have as much participation from everybody on campus, and in terms of understanding our real mission and understand who we really were. And that was one of the challenges of BUB. And am I on the right question line in answering? Because we were congenial in the sense that the communication was such where we wanted students of color who were living on campus who were having problems to be able to communicate with us. And again, it's a pleasure to see that still exists. So back then it was more of a hotline. It's probably something different now.